Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yomi Shir. We're learning Yevamos, Daf Ayin Vav 76. We have a wonderful shir for you today. We'll be discussing more about Tzuadaka, Kroshafcha, these psulim that man is not able to reproduce. If that's the case, he's not allowed to marry into the Kal Hashem. The Torah says the Mishnah, uh, the main Mishnah we'll be talking about today, is that he's not allowed to marry to the Kal Hashem. He's allowed to marry a convert, a woman who converted, or Shifra that was Meshuchrar. These are not people that are part of the Kal Hashem, so he's allowed to marry them. What exactly does it mean, the Kal Hashem? What does it mean? Kohen, who's a Psuadaka, is he considered a Kohen still? We'll talk about these things more on a surface level in the Gemara and in depth in Yevamos. There's two parts of every Jew. There's part of the Kal and part of the Kedushas Yisrael. People refer to a Jew as a Kedushas Yisrael. The Torah also calls Jewish people part of the Kal Hashem. The Kal Hashem. There's two aspects to every Jew. We'll discuss the differences between them and how it relates to the difference between ethnicity and culture. Right? If you ever heard WFAN, Steve Summers, the Jewish guy, people call him up and say, "Was machst du Yid?" He doesn't really love to be known that he's Jewish, but he is a Jewish guy, and he's a host of WFAN, sports talk radio in New York. So when people say "Was machst du Yid" to Steve Summers, he says, "Hey, Jay is getting ethnic with me over here." Ethnic. Friend to Jay Nathanson, a friend of mine. He likes to call up WFN. Anyway, getting ethnic with me over here. We'll discuss ethnics and culture. Is it part of the lexicon of halacha? Does it have anything to do with halacha? Could it be that it actually has anything to do with halacha? And based on that, we'll discuss the difference between the Kedush Yisrael of a mummer versus a mashumud, which we've been talked about. What aspects of the Jewish culture versus ethnics. This is not something you don't want to miss. This is really important. If you want to go discuss the concept of a Jew in the world, you might have to learn today's daf, especially with Yevamos coming up right after this. So you don't want to miss it. I hope everyone had a good Shabbos. I hope everyone is prepared for a new week of Daf Yomi and Mishnah Yomi and Shulchan Aruch Yomi. I hope you tune into all my shiurim and all the Ian shiurim that accompany them. We have great stuff coming up for you this week. In addition, hopefully, I'm hoping to continue my show. We've changed the name. Instead of Glot Kosher Money, it's now the Glot Seat. Sounds like the hot seat, the Glot Seat. There were some legal issues with keeping it as Glot Kosher Money. So we have to change the name to the Glot Seat, but I assure you it will be getting even better. The people that asked me to change the name will regret this moment for the rest of their lives. You know what? Last week, before this became a legal issue, I wasn't feeling so great. I got sick last week. My motivation to keep these other programs on the channel besides the Torah programs was dwindling. Give me motivation now. I have motivation now to beat this other show, and it's competition. The game is on, buddy. So now I'm going to prove I'm the best host of any show or podcast, if you want to call it. I don't do podcasts. I do visual shows because I have personality, animation. You want to see me in action, smiling, gesturing, not just asking audio-only questions, audio-only facial expressions. It's going to be great. I hope to have my good friend, Hillel Meir, on joining me. He's an up-and-coming, aspiring musical star in the Jewish world, an Israeli, but he's an American also, both Israeli and American. He sang at my wedding. He's roughly in the same point in our careers as me and him. He's an up-and-coming superstar in the Jewish singing world. I'm an up-and-coming superstar in the YouTube world. So we're gonna meet together, hopefully, and get an in-depth conversation, a little bit bio of his background and what he's doing as an up-and-coming music star, but more importantly, the gladness, of becoming a Jewish music star. Is this something Judaism celebrates? Modern Orthodox Judaism, celebrity Jewish music stars are celebrities. That's the main thing I want to talk about. What is behind being a celebrity, a Jewish celebrity? What goes on? Why should you want it and why should you not? Is he going for it? Is he not going for it? All these questions we dealt with, including mentionings of singers and the obstacles they face as part of being a star. You're not going to want to miss it. Hopefully we'll have that put out this week. Let's get started. Where it says, top of Ayin Vav and Aleph. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Nikev V'Nistam Kol She'ilu Nikri V'Nikra Apostle. Let's say you got a hole. Again, we're talking about in the corona. The corona is, the bottom of the glands. The glands is the head of the penis. It's the head of the penis. If you get a hole in there, right? One of the things that Bryce has said before that constricts. What's the right word? Disables the ability to reproduce. So let's say you get a hole in there, and then you want to sew it up. It gets sealed up by skin. A scar comes over there, it seals it. So how do you measure if it's still a hole? So if semen was released, right, and the hole would open up and it would come out through the hole. Also, we love kosher, but if it remains strong, it's kosher. Heavy berava, heicha. Where's the hole? Ilim lamata me'atar. If it's actually talking about the lower half of the penis, I feel nikras nami. Even if, forget about the hole, even if it gets partially cut off, severed most of the penis, so it wouldn't be a problem. Elabatar must be talking about the head. Atzma. Itmar nami amar mari bar mar amar maroko amar shmuel nigev batar atzma v'nistam kol shel nikri v'nikra apostle v'lav kosher. If the scab, the scar, closes over it and it doesn't get reopened, it wouldn't get reopened when the semen passes through the penis outside, it would be kosher. What's the halacha? How do we check it? We have to check to see if this guy, right? We want to know, because let's say this guy's together with his wife, they have children, right? We want to know who's the father, because if it gets, so you're allowed to test and let the man take out zera, even though it would be ostensibly, some people call it levatala. It's clear from this Gemara that for purposes of knowing who the father is, it's 100% okay. It's not called levatala. What do you do? So Amar Le Maisina Nahama Chamima Zara, you take barley, a hot barley bread, you put it on his tuchus, mikri, and it causes him to release semen. Chazinan Le, and you see, does it come out of the top or does it come out of the hole? Amar Abai Atu Kulema Yaakov Avinu Havai Dichsibe Chok Virosh Yisoni Shalom Ra Kerem Yamav. This is a way of doing it that would only people that are strong, and that zera doesn't come out easily. Apparently, it's something very powerful. You need to do this for everybody. You don't need to do this a strong thing. There's easier ways to get the semen out. Amar Ella Amar Abai Marina Kamei Big Day Sivon. You take women's colored clothing, maybe bras, underwear, I don't know. You put it in front of him, and he sees it, and he lets semen out. Amar Rabba Atukul Al Barzila Giladihu. Is everyone so steeped in lewdness? Barzila Giladi was someone who was Jordan, I guess, the present-day Jordan. David was running away from Avshalom. He took leave of, he helped him out, David, and when Avshalom died, he wanted to go back to Jerusalem. He invited Barzilai Giladi to come. He said he was too old. He wasn't that old. The Gemara said he was in the 80s. He said he was old because he was steeped in debauchery and lewdness. He used to get a lot of women. Semen came out for him easily. So the Gemara says, you have to. Not everyone is so steeped in lewdness. Rather, the best way is to take the barley bread. I don't really understand this. The barley bread. I putting it in a tochas. I don't know why that would cause a person to really semen, and it'd be so strong that even it would work by Yaakov Avinu. Tarabana Nikiv Puzzle Mibnei Shu Shoses. If it has a hole, he's puzzle, right? It's considered a psuadak, Khrushchev, Mibnei Shu Shoses, because the zera doesn't shoot out, it flows out. Nistam Kosher, Mibnei Shu molded, it gets scarred and closed up, so then it's molded, he's able to reproduce. Zeh psul shechozer like shero. This is a psul that could be fixed. Zehu lemute mai. Why is it zehu? Comes to exclude something. Lemute krum sha'ala machmas makas bareya. Let's say you have an animal that has a puncture in its lung, right, which would make it a treifa, and tissue, scab tissue, grows over it. The eno krum, it's not considered to be, it's considered a sircha, it's considered a scab in the lung, which would still halakhically render it a treifa, because it'll open up. It's not a strong enough scab. How do you do it? The person gets a hole in their head of their penis. How do you fix it? You bring a barley seed, sartina, like you scratch the hole, mycena tarba, which would get some blood out. Mycena tarba shafina, and you break some fats and you rub it over there, soften the area. Mycena shumshama gamla, menachtina le paskina le reisha. You take an ant and you put it in, and you chop off the ant's head. To fill in the hole, and then I guess it causes the skin to grow there. With Dakasarta, you should only use a barley seed of a parsla to use the iron to make the blood come out. Mizra Zarv is going to make it too wounded, and it's never going to properly heal. Bahani Mili Katan. This is only talking about a small level. Gadol Mikfule Mikful. It'll peel off, even a scab comes there. Not a scar. A scar is a remnant of a scab. A scab comes there. It'll fall off. It's a big hole. It'll never have a chance to really fully heal. I'm a rabbi of Huna. Matal Mayim Mishtei Makomos. Let's say you urinate. It comes out of both the urinary tract and the semen tract. Right? There's only one hole on top of the penis, but it's coming out. I guess in that hole in the penis, there's like two places where it comes out. I don't know which one's the right, which one's the left, but it comes out of two places. Sometimes people urinate, like breaks into different streams. I think he's talking about something that always happens to, not once in a while. Puzzle. It's puzzle. I'm a rabbi. He's puzzle. He can't. Well, he's called a psuadaka. He's also lava bakal. He can't marry a regular Jewish woman. I'm a rabbi. Not like the son, not like the father. Bara had the Amran. Bara was the son of Rav Huna. We just quoted this halacha. Rabba Bar Rav Huna. Abba, the case where we don't pass like the father. Rav Huna, Damar Rav Huna, Nashim Salo Zubazu, Psulas Lakuna, women who are lesbians, they sleep together, they're lesbians, they rub their vaginas against each other. The Gemara says, there, Rav Huna says they're apostle Lakahuna, they're considered zona. But if you look at Damar, Panabal, Pnu Yishol Shemisha Sasa zona. Even Elijah says when an unmarried man, unmarried woman are together, they don't do it for marriage, they do it just for enjoyment. Makes her a zona. Even he would admit that's only when a man and a woman, two women together, pritzusa ba'almo. It's just pritzus, it's just breaking down fences, something new, breaking down fences. But it's not something which is considered a sexual act, and therefore it wouldn't be a zona. That's why we paskin. Mishnah says, "Psuadaka of Khrushchev mutarim b'gioros mishukreres." Psuadaka Khrushchev, where these people can't reproduce their mutter, negioris and a mishukreres, a Jewish convert, a woman who converted, a mishukreres, a shifcha that was mishukrer. She basically converted also. They're full-fledged Jews now, but as we're going to see, they're not part of the Kal Hashem. Psuadaka Khrushchev, but Kal Hashem, the congregation of Hashem. These people are not called the congregation of Hashem, ostensibly because they have a non-Jewish past, and having a non-Jewish past is culturally different because they have that Christmas tree in their childhood. Culturally, they're not the same. Kal sounds like culture. Talk about this morning on Elon Ben Sion. They can't marry a regular, a full-fledged Jewish woman. Where it says, Bomi name Rav Sheshes, Psuadaka Kohen. Let's say he's a Kohen and he has crushed testicles. Mao Bigioras, Mishukreres. Could he marry, right? Normally a Kohen can't marry a Gioris and Meshuchares, not because they're not part of the Kal Hashem, because he has Kedusha. He's not allowed to marry. Um, we assume they're a Zona. That's ostensibly the the reasoning behind this. We consider a Zona. We assume they were Niveles to an Akum, which made them a Zona. So could a Kohen of Suadaka marry them? Does he remain, even though he's a Suadaka, he can't reproduce? He still has a Kedusha's Kohen, now he becomes like a regular Suadaka Yisrael. Suadaka Yisrael, like the Mishnah says, could marry Yoris and a Shivcha Mishucheres. We have a Braisa which answers this question. Suadaka Yisrael Mutter Minasina. Suadaka Yisrael can marry Nasina. Nasina was one of the Zion Amim, the 7 original nations in Eretz Canaan when they was captured the land by Yehoshua. They wanted to save their lives, so they pretended to be Jews. They converted. It was found out that they weren't Jewish. He converted them. He made them, woodcutters and water drawers. But it was a questionable Geiris, but they were Geirim. But there was Gozer, they shouldn't marry them. They're a Banner or Doraisa, they shouldn't marry them. So Psua Dak, there's a lot of marrying a Sina, just like marry a Gior and a Shifcha Mishuchar, there's a lot of marrying a Sina. If you say a Psua Daka retains his Kedushas Yisrael, Ikri Kalas Eskatim, it says in the Torah you can't marry one of the Zion Amim, you can't marry them. So if you hold a Psua Daka retains his Kedushas Yisrael, all that only applies to a Jewish, a fully fledged Jewish person, Israel marrying the 7 nations. Rava says, it's not because of Kedusha over there. Dilma Molid Ben Vazal Palach. The reason you're not supposed to marry the Zion Amim, and the scene of one of the Zion Amim, is because maybe you have a child, and the child is going to worship Avodah Zarah. That's only when they were non-Jews. When we're worried that the child is going to, the mother is going to raise the child as a non-Jew. When they convert, be Israel Sharu, they're considered full Yisraelim. Rabbanu the Gazru, the Rabbanu still goes there. There only goes there. Daka, people that can have children. The whole reason is that they can have children. So if you can't have children, there's no reason to make a Gzera. Our challenge is Mamzer, the Baraludi, Hakanami, the Asir. A Mamzer shouldn't be allowed to marry Nasina also, because he could have children. Mamzer and Nasina Mutarnam, the Mishnah and Kedushin says, Mamzer and Nasina could marry each other. The one only goes there to marry Nasina by kosher Jews, but Psulim, lo Gazer Rabbanah. By Psulim, Mamzer, the apostle Yisrael. He has a psul to him, he has a problem with him. Everyone goes there. Rava goes back on. He says, what I said is not true. The pasuk's not talking. The wasn't talking about before they're converted. You can't marry a non-Jew. This guy is the chasnas. Only when they converted, there is chasnas. There is chasnas. Then los chatin apply. Then los chatin apply. So he's even talking about when they're converted, and when they converted. So it's not the reason when we say they when the Brisa says Suadak Yishal Mutter ben Nasina, which there was a conversion, so there is marriage. Sorry, let's go back for a second. He says once they convert, right, the fact that Psua Dak is allowed to marry a Nasina, and Losas Gatim Bam Dafka applies after they converted. Losas Gatim Bam don't marry someone only who's Shayach marriage, it's applicable marriage only when they converted. So they're converted, so you see that and obviously when they converted, they're a Gioris, a regular Gioris, so they're not part of Kal Hashem. It's actually Machlokes in the Gemara in Kedushin whether a ger is considered Gioris is considered part of Kal Hashem. We pass on like Rav Yossi. This Mishnah holds the halacha like Rav Yossi. They're not part of Kal Hashem. Kal Gerim Lo Ikri Kal. So therefore, the fact that the Brisa says that a Psua Daka is allowed to marry a Gioris shows that the Psua Daka loses his status as of Kal Hashem, or he's allowed to marry someone not part of Kal Hashem. Rav Yosef asked the following question: Shlomo is Bas Paro Mel Mitzrayim. Shlomo married the daughter of Paro Mel Mitzrayim. Calls it Chasnas. Now, we don't think she was Jewish at this point. She wasn't Jewish. She didn't convert. So there is a concept of marriage. Rava, how can you say Los Chatinbaum talks about only when they converted? You could see you could have marriage. You could have marriage to a non-Jew. It's called, you can technically be married to a non-Jew. Where it says Giyure Giyare? No, really what happened, he made her convert. The Gemara says, Halo Kiblu Ger made of Shlomo. The Gemara says, they were Makaba Ger, and Makaba, we didn't convert anyone in the days of David and Shlomo. They all converted because they wanted the richness, the wealth of Klal Yisrael. They were so successful at the time. Whereas immediately with time, the only reason they didn't allow them to converts at that time is people were doing it just to increase their economic status. She was the princess of Egypt. She had plenty of money. She didn't need it, so obviously her gerus was a fair gerus, and they would accept her. Typically, the ham mitzvahs rishona. Say the fact he shouldn't be able to marry her because she's a mitzvah, a gioris, even though she's a mitzvah, even though she's a gioris. Now to marry her until the third generation. Maybe we'll say that when it says in the Torah you can't marry a mitzvah, even though they converted, that's talking about in the days of the Mitzrayim, original one. But nowadays, the ones that the Egyptians that were there left, and there's new people there. Hatanya, this is true. Amar Yehuda Minyamin Gayer Mitzri Haya Minyamin. Later on, the Tanaim talk about a person named Minyamin who was a convert from Mitzri Haya. Highly Chaver Mitalmid Rabbi Akiva. He was my Charusa of Talmid Rabbi Akiva. Amar Ani Mitzri Rishon. He told his friend, I'm Mitzri Rishon, Natali Mitzri Rishon. I also married a convert or a Mitzris who converted. Astil Bini Mitzri Shnenis. My son is obviously a Mitzri Shnenis. So my son, who's a Mitzri Sheni, should marry. I'm going to marry him or her. I'm going to give him to marry a Mitzri Shneil, and they're going to have their child is going to be a third generation Mitzri, which would be L'Roy L'Bakal, would be considered a full-fledged Jew. So you see, even in times of the Tanaim later on, they were considered Mitzrim. The Mitzrim didn't. The Isra of Mitzri still applied. Amarav Papa Ana Mishlomo Leiku V'Nesiv Shlomo L'Nasiv. You can't bring a proof from Shlomo. He didn't actually marry her. Midi D'Chsiv Bei. Hashem warned them, don't bring them from other nations. They're going to stray, cause your hearts to stray. He was davek to her and Ava. He had a romantic relationship with her, but outside the contract of marriage. It says he married her. But it's like he married her. Maybe they had a affair, I don't know, they had a romantic relationship. It was close to marriage, it wasn't exactly marriage. Our Mishnah says, right, someone who's crushed testicles, he can't reproduce, he's mutter to a Giyar Shulchares. We're not part of the Kal Hashem. How about Nesina Asiri? But you see what? And Nesina, he would be Aser. Nesina is how he's different than a Giyar and a Shefcham Shulchares. They're Asiri. So the same thing would apply to a Kohen. Amar leil tamayich ema seifa, say the seifa of the Mishnah. Ena asur al babakal. A psua dakru shafar only asur al babakal. Haben asina sharu, so it would come out the mutter and marry an asina. So therefore, the same thing would apply by a Kohen. El mahal leikal amashmi. No, you can't bring a proof for a Kohen from Kohen psua daka for a Mishnah. There's no conclusive proof of Kohen psua daka is allowed to marry. Is allowed to marry an Asina or not. Similarly, the question would say this be the same by Arela Psua Daka, is allowed to marry an Asina or not also. Okay, the Mishnah says, Ammoni Moavi Asrum Beisur and Isra Ola. Ammoni and Moavi. Who are Ammon and Moavi? These are nations that didn't let Klal Yisrael pass through their land. They were also the children of Lot from his daughters, Ammon and Moab. Technically, I would say Ammon is Amman, Jordan, Jordanians. Moavi would be a reference to the Maghreb region of northern Africa. When Klal Yisrael was trying to come back to Eretz Yisrael, they can try two different ways. You can go through northern Africa and cross over to the Mediterranean, or you could go through via Jordan cross over the Suez Canal, um, go to the Sinai Peninsula, maybe go to Jordan. Both of those people didn't let them go. V'isur in Israel olam, they're asur forever. Only the men are asur. The women who convert, obviously, are mutter, miyad, mitzri right away. Mitzri adomi and asur ela ashlosh doros. A mitzri convert, adomi. Who's adomi? I would say adomi, red. If you watch my video, I didn't put this video out. Red is Russia, the nation Russia. The word in Spanish for red is roche or something like that. Roche sounds like Russia. Edom, Russia is red. Adomis. Again, what I'm saying over here is, conjecture over here. It's not definitive what I'm saying. Anyway, Adomi, Russian converts, until 3 generations, then they're considered mutter lo. This applies equally to men and women converts. Shimon Maters and Akevas Shimon Maters, Mitzri and Adomis converts females right away. Amar Shimon Kalachomer Advar Ma'am Imamak Mashasra Aschar Misra Olam Hizras and Akevas Miyad. By Ammon and Moab, the men are Asher, the converts are Asher forever. The women are mutter immediately. Shalo Asher Aschar Melash Shlosh Doros Einon Dinish and Nazar Akevas Miyad. By Mitzri and Adomi, we'd only Asher 3 generations. The men, certainly the women should be mutter Miyad. Amar Lo Imalach and Akabel. If the Allah Mishusina you're saying, I'll accept. If you're saying a kavachomer, yesh tshuva, there is what to respond. The Gemara later on will talk about the response. Amar lehem lo ki Allah ani omer. I'm telling you Allah al Moshe Sinai. Gemara says Menanim Yili. Amar Yochanan Dam Akra. V'kros Shol is David Yotzis Lekras Plishti. Amar Avner Sarah Sava. We're going to try to figure out this concept. The Mishnah says that Ammon v'lo Ammonis, Ammoni v'lo Ammonis, Moavi v'lo Moavis, a female convert from Ammon and Moab, like Rus, right, is mutter right away. Let's talk about a story about David. Cross Shaul is David Yosef across Plishti. Shaul saw David going out to fight the Plishtim, the Palestinians, the Palestines in Gaza. Amar El Abner Ser Sava ben Miza Anar. Who is this lad? Who is he the son of Abner? He said, I don't know. Well, he doesn't know. Abner didn't know who he was. Velo no say Caleb. Shaul and Abner seem not to know him. But we know David actually held on. When he played golf, he used to be a caddy. Ela avua kamashil. He was asking about his father, David's father. Obviously, I didn't know David's father. It describes Yishai, David's father. He was a man who came among people. He would go out and he would come in. People would escort him, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people would escort him. He was a gadol ador. They would run after him like Chaim Kanievsky, Yachi Gamar. So, imi peret asi, imi zerachas. He was asking, David came from Yehuda. Did he come from, which of his sons did he come from? Tamar, Perez Azach, imi peret asi, came from Perez asi, Malka, have he destined to be a king? Shamelech poretz asas derech, enu machem biyodo, because Perez comes from the lashon of breaching a fence, right? Only a king has the ability to breach people's fences and just walk through anyone's land. Even Zerach, Chashiv Ba'alma, he comes from Zerach, but there's no implication that he's going to be a king. Maybe he'll just be an important person. My time, Amar Le Shaul Aleh Dichsiv Vayiba Shaul is David Madav Kmidaso. So why did he ask about him? He saw something unusual about David. He tried on Shaul's clothes. David tried on Shaul's clothes, his war clothes. He was the taller, one of the tallest people, Shaul, and then David, who was smaller, was able miraculously to fit into his clothes. Until you try to figure out whether he's going to take over, usurp the kingship from you. He's not even fit to marry a Jewish woman. My time, and the Gasim comes, he's descended from Rus. Abner said, no, we have our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that she was a female convert, so she was a complete Jewish. Mamzer, you'll say that. So why don't we say Mamzer? It says in Torah, Mamzer Mamzeres. A Mamzeres should be Mojalova Bakal, right? If people have a forbidden union and they have a girl who's a Mamzeres, she should be a Mojalova, which we know that's not true. The word is Mamzer Ksiv Mumzar. Mamzer doesn't mean a man, it's just Mamzer has 2 words. Mumzar is a strange blemish. I mean, it comes from a strange union. Mitzri v'lo mitris. So we should say this thing to be a mitzri and not a mitris. A female Egyptian convert should be mutter. Shiny hachal the mafarish time with the kra al shakidmu eschem olechem umayim talks about the reason Ammon and Moab can't love a Bakal, they can never marry, become fully Jewish, is because they didn't come to greet you with bread and water. Who comes out to greet people, to invite the guests into the house? Men, not women. So the women were responsible into Avera. Somebody's like, no, the woman should still be at fault because the men should have come to greet the men, and the woman should have come and invited the woman. Ishtik, you know the answer to that. So immediately he asks, who is he? Let's try and find out his lineage. Is he considered a rightful Jew? Is he can marry to the Kal Hashem? Helim, Miza Ha'elam. Who is this lad? Hasam Karli Nar, Haka Karli Elam. Originally he calls him a Nar, a lad, and then he calls him an Elam, which is another way of calling him a young lad. Why did he switch the words? Halacha is Alma. He told Abner the halacha seems to have escaped from you. Sevish al Beis HaMedrash, asked the Beis HaMedrash, Doagad Domi from Russia. He has a good question. Shal Amrullah Amoni Lamonis Moavi. He asked the Beis HaMedrash, and they told him, this is the Mishnah, that even though she's Rusa Moaviyah, but she was a female convert, she's mutter, he has no problem with his lineage. Actually, Doeg asked him in the Beis HaMedrash, he asked them all these questions. They were silent. Top of Ayin Zayin and Aleph. Then he wanted to make a public declaration. David was puzzled. Miyad. Leave off the word miyad. Miyad, the article says there was a response. We're going to find out the response tomorrow to answer these questions. Stay tuned for Yun Ben Sion coming up next, where we'll discuss the difference between Kal and Kiddush Israel and Kal Hashem, culture versus ethnics. You're not going to want to miss this. Bye.